Okay, so now we'll talk just a little bit about graphing basics. Okay, I've got this hypothetical data table here, which is hours spent studying versus grade on the exam. And you have to identify which here is going to be the dependent variable and which is the independent. You ask yourself, does hours spent studying depend on your grade on the final exam, or does your grade on the exam depend on the hours studying? And I hope you can see that the grade depends on hours studied. So the dependent variable in this case would be grade on exam, so that would be the y-axis. The independent variable will be the x-axis, and all these values here will be on the x-axis here. So hours, here's the chart here that we should, or the graph rather, and we have a half an hour studying all the way up to 4 hours, and here are the grades, the subsequent grades. So I'm going to plot this data real quick, very quickly. Half in 60, so will be a data point there. 1 in 65 would be right about there. 1.5 in 70 would be right about there. 2 in 74 would be, I don't know, somewhere in there. 2.5 and 78 would be somewhere in that. And you can obviously see 3 and 85. You can obviously see an upward trend in this, which we would call a positive relationship. 3.5 and 85. Okay, and then 4 and 90. It levels off a little bit on the top here, but that would be our plotted points. Now we would draw a best fit line through this, and we would want to draw a line, use a ruler. I'm not going to use a ruler, but we would want to draw a line that is a straight line that's going to go through 2 data points, and we pick 2 data points that are on this line. In this case, we'll pick the last one, which is 490, right, the last data point, and then something way over here, we'll call this one, this is 165. All right, so now we want to find the slope of this line, because that's going to tell us some information that we want to know. And the way we find slope is change in y divided by the change in x. And another way to say that is y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. And we'll call this x2, and this x1, you probably can't see that, I'm sorry. This is x2, this is y2 up here, 4 and 90, x2 and y2. Down here, 1 will be x1 and y1 there. So if we plug these numbers in, we'll get y2, which is 90, minus 65, which is about 25, I believe. And then if we have x2, 4, minus x1, which is 1, then we get 3. And that should be about 8 and a third, which is 0.3. So 8.3 is our slope of this line. Now what does that mean? That's a very important number. If we have an equation that looks in this form, y equals mx plus b, the m is the slope, so this number would be right there, 8.3. What that means is, for every hour we spend studying, our grade goes up on the final exam an average of 8.3 points. Study.